Listen carefully. This is the truth nobody wants to hear. The ultra-wealthy are not fearless. They don't avoid risk. They master it. While most people hesitate, calculate, and wait for the perfect moment, the ultra-wealthy move, adjust, and adapt in real time. They don't run from uncertainty. They design systems to control it. This audiobook is not about avoiding danger. It's about thinking like the people who build empires in the face of danger. If you want safety, stay average. If you want freedom, learn how to manage risk the way the wealthy do. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Stop avoiding risk. Start owning it. Most people spend their entire lives running from risk. They treat risk like fire, dangerous, unpredictable, something to stay far away from. But the ultra-wealthy, they treat risk like fuel. They use it to build. They use it to rise. They don't fear the fire. They learn how to control it. And that is the difference. Listen closely. Risk is not the enemy. Being unprepared is. That phrase will repeat again and again throughout this chapter, because you must burn it into your mind. You don't lose because risk exists. You lose because you meet risk with hesitation, ignorance, and no plan. You have a choice. You can keep running from risk like everyone else, or you can own it, control it, and make it serve you. Why most people lose to risk. Most people believe that avoiding risk equals safety. They say things like, I can't invest right now. It's too risky to start a business. I need certainty. But here's the truth. Their avoidance is not safety. It's slow decay. Every time you avoid risk, you avoid growth. Every time you hesitate, someone else moves forward. Risk does not disappear because you ignore it. It grows. It compounds. And one day it knocks on your door. Job loss, inflation, illness, recession. And the people who spent their lives avoiding risk are the ones least prepared to survive it. Risk is not the enemy. Being unprepared is. How the wealthy see risk. The wealthy don't ask, how do I avoid risk? They ask, how do I manage it? How do I prepare for it? How do I use it as leverage? They build systems. They build skill. They build confidence through calculated exposure. Look at Elon Musk. At one point, Tesla was running out of money. SpaceX had failed 3 rocket launches in a row. He was weeks from bankruptcy. He could have walked away. Most people would have, but he doubled down. He took what little he had left, about $20 million, and split it between Tesla and SpaceX to keep them alive. Why? Because he understood something most people don't. Avoiding risk guarantees failure. Managing risk creates possibility. On the 4th launch, SpaceX succeeded. Tesla survived, and the rest is history. You've been trained to fear. Risk since childhood, you've been told, be careful. Play it safe. Don't make mistakes. School rewards perfect answers, not bold attempts. Society praises security, not courage. And now you hesitate before every decision. But understand this, safety is an illusion. Your job is not safe. Your savings are not safe. Your health is not guaranteed. Stability is something you create, not something you wait for. You have a choice. Stay safe and stay stuck, or face risk and build strength. Risk responds to preparation. Risk is not the enemy. Being unprepared is. That's why the wealthy prepare like warriors. They collect information. They study cause and effect. They train. They build cash reserves. They create backup plans. They don't wait for risk to appear. They hunt it first and take control. Think of risk like fire. If you walk into a burning building without tools, yes, it will kill you. But a firefighter with gear, training, and a plan, that same fire becomes manageable, containable, even useful. The problem isn't the fire. The problem is entering without protection. The average person's mistakes with risk. There are 3 main mistakes people make. They wait for absolute certainty. They want a sign, a guarantee, a promise of success. But wealth does not wait for certainty. It rewards speed. They jump blindly without preparation. They quit jobs with no savings, start businesses with no knowledge. They confuse courage with recklessness. They run away after one failure. The wealthy don't retreat after failure. They collect data. They adjust. They go again. Risk is not the enemy. Being unprepared is. How to start owning risk. Today, you don't master risk by eliminating it. You master it by using it, carefully, deliberately, Here's how. Start small. Take controlled risks in low-stakes environments. Invest a small amount. Launch a tiny project. Send the email. Post the idea. You don't need to jump off a cliff. You just need to step forward. Collect information. Stop guessing. Read, research, study the industry you want to enter. You don't need more motivation. You need better data. Build a safety net. Emergency fund, skills, multiple sources of income. This is how you make risk survivable. Set failure rules. Decide ahead of time. How much are you willing to lose? How long will you try before adjusting course? This makes risk measurable, not emotional. You control risk by creating structure. Real-world reminder: Elon Musk didn't win because risk disappeared. He won because he embraced it intelligently. SpaceX was not a reckless gamble. It was a calculated risk. Multiple prototypes, iterations, engineering, preparation. He didn't avoid the fire. He learned how to walk through it. That is what you must do. This is your turning point. So ask yourself right now, are you living with risk, or are you hiding from it? Are you building systems, or are you praying nothing goes wrong? Are you acting like the poor waiting for permission, or are you acting like the wealthy who prepare and move? You have a choice. Stay comfortable and stay average, or step into discomfort with preparation, strategy, and purpose. Remember this: risk is not the enemy. Being unprepared is transition to next chapter. You've now faced the truth about risk. You know it's not something to avoid. It's something to own, control, and prepare for. But how do the wealthy decide which risks are worth taking? They don't guess. They use information as their shield. You mastered your fear. Now it's time to master your mind. Chapter 2. Obsession with information, not opinions. Most people make decisions based on feelings, gossip, or whatever their friends say. But the ultra-wealthy? They don't move unless the data tells them to move. They don't ask, "What do you think?" They ask, "What do the numbers say?" That is the difference between guessing and winning. That is the difference between hope and strategy. Information reduces fear. Ignorance multiplies it. That's the core of this chapter. You're going to hear it again and again. Because it's not about talent. It's not about luck. It's about the discipline to know before you act. Why opinions keep you? Broke opinions are cheap. Everyone has them. And most of them are wrong. The average person asks for advice from people who have no results. They ask their friends if they should start a business. They ask social media if they should invest. They ask the unemployed how to find success. That's why they stay stuck. Information reduces fear. Ignorance multiplies it. You're not afraid because risk is scary. You're afraid because you don't know enough. You haven't done the research. You haven't studied the history, the trend, the numbers. And because you don't know, you hesitate. You have a choice. You can keep hiding behind excuses, or you can face the truth. Your fear is fueled by ignorance, not danger. How the ultra-wealthy think before they act. The wealthy prepare differently. They read financial statements. They study industry reports. They analyze competitors. They know the numbers before anyone else even understands the game. They don't scroll endlessly on social media. They don't drown in commentary. They go straight to data. They go straight to truth. Information reduces fear. Ignorance multiplies it. Before investing in a company, they don't ask, "Do people like this brand?" They ask, "What is their cash flow? What is their debt? What is their growth rate? Is demand increasing or dying?" That's the key. Emotion makes you gamble. Information makes you calculate. Example: Warren Buffett's obsession. Warren Buffett reads 500 pages a day. Not inspirational quotes. Not opinions on Twitter. Annual reports. Financial statements. Market data. Why? Because he understands something most people never do. The more you know, the less you fear. He said it himself. Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. Information reduces fear. Ignorance multiplies it. That's the reason he can invest billions when others panic. When people are selling their stocks in fear, he buys because he knows. Because he has proof. Because he has discipline. The cost of staying ignorant, let's be clear. Ignorance is expensive. Not knowing what you're doing costs you opportunities, money, and years of your life. You think learning is expensive? Try ignorance. People say, "I don't have time to learn," but they have time to scroll for hours. They have time for gossip. They have time to stay average. You don't need their permission. You only need to decide. You have a choice. Be entertained or be educated. You can't be both, what you must do. Instead, you want to think like the wealthy. Then stop collecting opinions and start collecting data. Here's what that looks like in real life. Research before action. Don't invest in a business you haven't studied. Don't launch a product you haven't tested. Don't partner with someone whose history you don't know. Read real documents, annual reports, case studies, market trends, tax laws. Stop relying on summaries from influencers. Go to the source. Track your own data. Your income, your spending, your habits, your time. If you don't measure it, you cannot improve it. That's the key. Information reduces fear. Ignorance multiplies it. Eliminate noise. Chase. Truth. Opinions are noise. Data is signal. You must train your brain to seek the signal. When someone gives advice, ask, what are the numbers behind it? When someone claims success, ask, show me the proof. When someone says something is risky, ask, based on what? This is not arrogance. This is discipline. It's not about being cynical. It's about being precise, because here's the truth. It's not about confidence. It's about clarity. It's not about motivation. It's about information. But what if you don't know where to start? Start small. Start simple. But start now. Want to invest? Learn how to read a balance sheet. Want to start a business? Study your competitors. Study your customers. Want to escape financial stress? Track every dollar you spend for 30 days. You don't need a degree. You don't need permission. You need discipline. You have a choice. Complain that you don't know how, or learn how. Real-world contrast. Two people, two paths. Two people hear the same opportunity. One says, sounds risky. The other says, let me study the data. The first person walks away. The second reads, learns, plans, executes, and wins. Same opportunity. Different response. Why? Because information reduces fear. Ignorance multiplies it. This is your warning and your invitation. If you continue to operate on feelings and opinions, life will punish you. Financially, emotionally, permanently. But if you commit to truth, to research, to data, to knowledge, you will move with power. You will act faster. You will fear less. You will make better decisions. You don't need their permission. You need information. You don't need more confidence. You need more clarity. You have a choice. Stay blind or start seeing. Transition to Chapter 3. You now understand why information is power and ignorance is danger. But knowledge alone is not enough. You must protect yourself before you move. The wealthy don't jump into risk blindly. They build safety nets first. You've armed your mind. Now it's time to protect your life. Chapter 3. Build safety nets before you jump. Most people make one of two mistakes with risk. They either jump without looking, or they never jump at all. Both are failures. Both lead to regret. The poor leap with hope. The wealthy leap with preparation. Hope is not a strategy. Protection is the foundation of sustainable success. You don't build wealth by being reckless. You build it by being courageous and protected. You build it by creating safety nets before you take the leap, not after you're already falling. Why most people fail with risk. The poor and the unprepared make decisions based on emotion. They say, I'll figure it out later. They quit their jobs without savings. They start businesses with no backup plan. They invest all their money into one idea and call it belief. That's not belief. That's gambling. Others do the opposite. They never jump at all. They wait for perfect timing. They wait for guarantees. They stay safe, stay small, stay stuck. You have a choice. Reckless action or paralyzed inaction. Both will destroy your future. The wealthy pick a third option. Educated, protected risk. They build the net. Then they jump. Hope is not a strategy. Protection is what wealthy people build. Before they move, before they start the business, before they invest the capital, before they take the leap, they prepare. Here are the essential safety nets they use. Emergency fund. The wealthy make sure they can survive if everything collapses. 6 months of expenses. Cash on hand. Not credit. Not hope. Cash. That is your shield. That is your breathing room. Diversified income. One job is fragile. One client is fragile. One source of money is a trap. The wealthy create multiple income streams. A side business, rental income, dividends, digital products. One income pays the bills. The others build freedom, legal protection, and structure. They don't run businesses as individuals. They form LLCs, corporations, trusts. They separate personal assets from business risks. When lawsuits come, and they will, they are already protected. Insurance, not exciting. Not glamorous, but essential. Health insurance, business insurance, liability coverage. The poor say, I don't want to waste money on things that might not happen. The wealthy say, I don't want to lose everything when it does happen. Exit plans. The wealthy don't just ask, how do I start? They ask, how do I exit if it goes wrong? How do I recover? They plan their escape before they enter the battlefield. Hope is not a strategy. Protection is. Case study. Real-world wealth preparation. Look at successful investors. They never risk everything. They risk a percentage. They decide in advance how much they're willing to lose. When Jeff Bezos left his job to start Amazon, he already had a backup plan. He called it the regret minimization framework. He knew the worst-case scenario. He could go back to a job. He wasn't jumping blind. He had a net. Even Elon Musk, who risked nearly everything, didn't rely on luck. He structured deals. He split capital. He secured government contracts. He diversified into Tesla, SpaceX, Solar City, different industries, different revenue models. They didn't jump without protection. They built systems. Why this matters to you? You think your problem is lack of opportunity. It's not. It's lack of protection. You're not stuck because life is unfair. You're stuck because you act without a shield, or don't act at all. It's not about being fearless. It's about being prepared. It's not about being lucky. It's about being protected. You have a choice. Keep hoping things will work out, or build a plan to make things work, because hope is not a strategy. Protection is how to build your safety net. Starting now. Let's get practical. Here's how you start protecting yourself, no matter where you are today. Step 1. Save 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Make it automatic. Direct deposit. Separate account. No excuses. This is your survival fund. Step 2. Track every dollar. You cannot protect what you don't measure. Know your expenses. Know your income. Control your cash flow. Step 3. Build one additional income stream. Freelance, rentals, digital products, affiliate marketing. Something small. Something manageable. Something you control. Step 4. Separate personal and business risks. Register your business properly. Keep personal money apart from business money. This isn't about taxes. This is about survival. Step 5. Insure yourself. Health, liability, property. Protection is boring until you need it. Then it becomes everything. You don't need their permission. You don't need to be rich to start. You need discipline. What happens when you skip this step? If you jump without protection, one emergency destroys you. One lawsuit ruins you. One market crash takes everything. If you never jump at all, you live a life of regret. You suffocate in comfort. You decay slowly. Both paths are failure. Both are choices. But there's another way. Prepare, protect, then leap. Hope is not a strategy. Protection is. This is your wake-up call. Stop saying, I'm scared. Start saying, I'm preparing. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Start building perfect systems. Stop hoping nothing goes wrong. Start preparing for when it does. You have a choice. Stay fragile or become anti-fragile. Stay exposed or become protected. Stay average or become unstoppable. Chapter 4. Never risk everything. Always calculate your downside. You've been told to dream big. To take risks. To jump and build the parachute on the way down. That's romantic. That's motivational. And that's exactly why most people stay broke. The poor risk everything for a chance at something. The wealthy, they never risk everything. They calculate the downside first. They ask one question before they ask anything else. How much can I lose and still survive? That's the difference. That's the mindset. That's the discipline. You have a choice. You can chase the dream blindly, or you can protect yourself while you chase it. It's not about fear. It's about survival. It's not about playing small. It's about staying in the game long enough to win. Because if you lose everything, you're out. And once you're out, you don't get to play again. Never risk everything. Always calculate your downside. That's the rule. The question the wealthy obsess over before they ask, how much can I gain? The ultra-wealthy ask, how much can I lose? They don't measure opportunity by upside. They measure by survivability. They don't fall in love with potential profits. They study potential death, because wealth doesn't come from one massive victory. It comes from many small wins, compounded over time. And you can only compound if you're still standing. You have a choice. Hope you win, or build a plan for when you lose. Why most people? Fail. Most people make two deadly mistakes. They risk what they can't afford to lose. They never calculate the consequences of failure. They gamble. They throw everything on the table, every dollar, every relationship, every ounce of energy, because someone told them to bet on themselves. Then they fail, and they lose the ability to even start again. Hope is not a strategy. Protection is. The tools of the wealthy limit the downside. The rich build financial armor, legal armor, emotional armor. They cap their downside using specific strategies you can adopt right now. Limited liability. They don't put their personal assets on the line. They use LLCs and corporations. If the business fails, they lose the business. Not the house, not the savings, not their kids' education. Partnerships. They don't go to war alone. They spread the risk. You own 100% of nothing when you're broke. You own 30% of something big when you're smart. Staggered investments. They don't drop everything in at once. They invest in stages. Test, evaluate, double down. If stage 1 fails, they walk away with a scratch, not a fatal wound. The wealthy survive because they plan to survive. Jeff Bezos and the regret minimization framework. Jeff Bezos didn't start Amazon because he was fearless. He started it because he calculated the downside. His question wasn't, what if it all works out? It was, when I'm 80, will I regret not trying this? That's called the regret minimization framework. It's not fantasy. It's math. It's perspective. He had savings. He had a high-paying job. He didn't burn the boats. He built a raft before leaving the shore. He didn't risk everything. He risked enough to matter, but not enough to die. Never risk everything. Always calculate your downside. How to apply this to your life? Here's your roadmap. Real actions. Real protection. Define your survival number. What's the bare minimum you need to live? Rent, food, transport, insurance? That's your survival number. Don't risk below it. Build a buffer of 3 to 6 months. That's not optional. That's the foundation. Ask the downside question before every decision. If this fails, if I lose the money, if the business collapses, can I survive? Can I rebuild? If the answer is no, you're gambling, not building. Use legal protection. Form an LLC, register trademarks, sign contracts. Don't use your personal bank account for business expenses. Separate your identity from your enterprise. That's how you survive bankruptcy, lawsuits, recessions. Scale with tests, not leaps. Launch version 1. Sell 10 units. Get feedback. If people want it, make version 2. If they don't, adjust. You don't need $1 million. You need a prototype and discipline. Protect your mind. The biggest downside isn't financial. It's emotional collapse. Develop discipline. When you fail, and you will, don't quit. Breathe. Adapt. Fail small. Correct fast. You don't need permission to protect yourself. People will call you cautious. They'll say you're scared. Let them. They don't pay your bills. They don't rebuild your life when everything burns. You don't need their permission to protect yourself. You don't need applause for being prepared. You need discipline. Hope is not a strategy. Protection is. This is how empires are built. Empires aren't built in one move. They're built brick by brick, battle by battle, risk by calculated risk. The wealthy don't avoid risk. They control it. You have a choice. Keep gambling with your destiny, or become the architect of your future. Never risk everything. Always calculate your downside. That's the key. Chapter 5. Use other people's money, but never other people's responsibility. You've been told debt is dangerous. Loans are traps. Credit is evil. And for most people, that's true. But not because money is bad. It's because lack of discipline is. The wealthy don't run from debt. They master it. They don't waste their lifetime saving dollar by dollar. They use a different weapon, Leverage. They use other people's money. Investors, banks, partnerships. But here's what separates them from the broke and the reckless. They never use other people's responsibility. You can borrow capital. You cannot borrow discipline. That's the key. The poor fear debt. The wealthy fear bad decisions. The poor avoid banks because they fear rejection. The poor avoid investors because they fear judgment. They think borrowing money is a sign of weakness. The wealthy see it differently. They know debt is a tool, a lever. The same way a crane can lift what a man could never carry, money can do the work they cannot do alone, but they never hand over responsibility. They never blame the bank, the market, or the investor. They hold the burden. They make the decisions. And when it goes wrong, they own it. You can borrow capital. You cannot borrow discipline. Debt versus leverage. Understand the difference. Let's make this simple. Debt is buying what you can't afford to consume. You finance vacations, clothes, cars, status? That's slavery. Leverage is using capital to acquire assets that pay you back. You borrow to build. You borrow to multiply. That's power. It's not about money. It's about discipline. You have a choice. Stay small because you're scared, or grow because you're strategic. Why millionaires use banks, while the poor fear them. The poor treat banks like predators. The wealthy treat them like partners. Why? Because the wealthy come prepared. They walk in with plans, projections, assets, collateral. They don't beg for money. They present opportunities. Banks trust systems. Investors trust results. No one trusts excuses. You can borrow capital. You cannot borrow discipline, real wealth, principle, control without ownership. The game is not about owning everything. It's about controlling everything, with as little of your own money as possible. This is how the wealthy play. They buy real estate with 20% down, but control 100% of the asset. They launch companies with investor money, but keep decision power. They use partnerships to spread risk, but keep accountability. Remember this: ownership is optional. Responsibility is not. The dangerous illusion. Blame outsourcing. Most people want capital without responsibility. They want investors, but they don't want pressure. They want banks, but they don't want deadlines. They want success, but they don't want accountability. That mindset keeps you broke. Because the moment things go wrong, you look for someone to blame. The wealthy don't do that. They borrow, but they stay in command. They sign the contract, but they also sign their name to the consequences. You can borrow capital. You cannot borrow discipline. How to use other people's money the right way. Here's how you stop being a spectator and start being a player. Borrow only for assets, never for lifestyle. If it doesn't make money, don't borrow money for it. Simple. No exceptions. A car that makes deliveries? Maybe. A car to impress people? Never to. Present a plan, not a dream. Investors don't fund fantasies. They fund systems. Ask yourself, how does this make money? What's the timeline? What's the exit strategy? If you don't know, you're not ready. Pause. Keep control of decisions. If someone else decides where the money goes, it's not leverage, it's dependency. Take advice, yes, but never give away control of the mission. Build trust before you ask for trust. You want investors? Show your results. Show your numbers. Prove you can multiply money before asking for more of it. Prepare for the worst before you borrow $1. What if sales drop? What if interest rates rise? What if your business fails? Do you have an exit plan? If not, you're not borrowing, you're gambling. Case study. Mindset, the entrepreneur who gets it. Right. A disciplined entrepreneur doesn't walk into a bank and say, "Please give me money." They walk in saying, "Here's how your money comes back, with interest. Here's what I'm risking. Here's what I'm not." That's the mindset of control. That's the mindset of wealth, the harsh truth. Nobody wants to hear, "You're not afraid of debt. You're afraid of accountability. You're not scared of investors. You're scared of being exposed as unprepared." Stop blaming the system. Stop blaming the banks. The system rewards discipline. You have a choice. Stay borrowed with excuses, or build leverage with responsibility. The mindset shift you must make. Stop saying, "What if I lose their money?" Start saying, what system ensures I don't? Stop asking, who will save me? Start asking, how do I build something worth investing in? Hope is not a strategy. Blame is not protection. Discipline is. You can borrow capital. You cannot borrow discipline. This is how you build an empire. Use the bank's money. Use investor money. Use partner money. But use your discipline, your decisions, your accountability. That's how skyscrapers are built. That's how companies scale. That's how legacies last. You don't need their permission to take responsibility. You don't need applause to stay disciplined. Chapter 6. Emotional Control. Is a financial weapon. You can't build wealth with an unstable mind. You can't make rational decisions with emotional chaos. The ultra-wealthy don't eliminate fear. They don't eliminate stress. They just refuse to let emotions control the steering wheel. Your emotions don't get a vote in your financial decisions. That's the rule. That's the weapon. That's the separator. Most people are not poor because of lack of opportunity. They are poor because of lack of emotional discipline. They let panic sell their investments. They let excitement make them buy things they don't need. They let pride stop them from asking for help. And they let jealousy push them into stupid risks just to look successful. The wealthy feel fear. They feel doubt. They feel pressure. But they act through it, with logic, not emotion. They build systems to protect them from themselves. Your brain wants comfort, not wealth. Let's be clear, your brain is not designed for wealth. It's designed for survival. It seeks comfort. It avoids pain. It loves instant gratification. That's why your emotions scream, buy it now, you deserve it. Sell everything, the market is crashing. Don't invest. What if you lose? But that's not logic speaking. That's survival mode. And survival mode keeps you small. Wealth isn't built by feelings. Wealth is built by discipline. Your emotions don't get a vote in your financial decisions. How the wealthy control their emotions. They don't rely on willpower. They rely on systems, because systems don't panic. Systems don't get jealous. Systems don't wake up one morning and quit. Here are their tools. They write decisions down before the storm hits. They write investment rules when they are calm and follow them when markets are on fire. They ask, if this stock drops 20%, what will I do? Then they follow it. No panic. No guessing. They pre-commit to rules. They set automatic savings, automatic investments. They remove emotion from the equation. If you wait to feel ready, you'll never act. They avoid impulsive reactions. When everyone else is screaming, they go silent. They step away. They breathe. They wait 24 hours before making any financial decision driven by fear or excitement. Why? Because they know your emotions don't get a vote in your financial decisions. Real-world examples of emotional control. Warren Buffett doesn't panic during a recession. He buys more. He once said, "Be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful." That only works if your emotions don't control you. Elon Musk risked everything on Tesla and SpaceX, but didn't act from panic. Even when running out of cash, he followed his calculations, not his emotions. He didn't let fear make the decisions. During the 2008 financial crash, most people sold in panic. The wealthy bought assets at a discount. Same market. Different emotional discipline. You have a choice. Your future is not determined by how you feel. It's determined by how you act despite how you feel. You can let fear dictate your life. Or you can say it out loud. My emotions don't get a vote in my financial decisions. You don't need their permission to be calm. You don't need perfect timing. You need discipline. How to build emotional discipline. Step by step. Step 1. Create written rules for money. Write down your rules for saving, investing, spending, and borrowing. If it's not written, it's just a wish. Step 2. Automate before you hesitate. Automate transfers to savings. Automate investments. Remove your emotional self from the driver's seat. Step 3. Delay. Every emotional purchase. Implement the 24-hour rule for any non-essential purchase. If after 24 hours you still want it, decide logically, not emotionally. Step 4. Track your reactions. When you panic, write it down. When you make a bad purchase, write it down. Study your emotional patterns like a scientist. Step 5. Create a no-emotion zone for financial decisions. When markets drop, when bills pile up, don't react. Step away. Breathe. Then return with logic. The enemy is not the market. It's you. People say the market is risky. No, the market is neutral. People say money is stressful. No, money is a tool. The real enemy is the emotional chaos inside you. Fear says, don't invest. Greed says, invest everything. Discipline says, what do the numbers say? You have a choice. Feelings or facts, reaction or strategy, emotion or execution. Your emotions don't get a vote in your financial decisions. This is what emotional wealth looks like. Real wealth is being unshakable, calm in chaos, focused under pressure. It's not about never feeling fear. It's about never letting fear take control. It's not about having no doubt. It's about not letting doubt make your decisions. You don't need other people's permission to be disciplined. You don't need approval to be calm. You need rules. You need logic. You need control. Transition to the next chapter. You've learned to control your emotions. You've learned to silence panic. But now you need to master something even more powerful. The ability to wait. Because wealth isn't just built by action. It's built by patience. You learned emotional control. Now let's learn strategic timing. Chapter 7. Small bets first. Then scale. Relentlessly, you want to build something big. Good. But here's the truth no one wants to accept. You don't leap from $0 to $1,000. You don't launch perfect. You don't start with a skyscraper. You start with a brick, a prototype, a test. Then you repeat, test, adjust, scale. The people you admire, the entrepreneurs, the investors, the creators, they didn't bet everything on day one. They placed small bets, $100 on a product ad, 10 test users, a landing page with no product behind it. That's how they learned. That's how they de-risked the dream. They didn't wait for certainty. They created it. Test, adjust, scale. This is where most people fail. They want guarantees. They want applause. They want someone to promise it will work before they take a step. But business doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards experimentation. Small, controlled experiments. You have to understand, progress isn't luck. Progress is iteration. Test, adjust, scale. You don't need a full business plan. You need a prototype. You don't need a factory. You need a mock-up. You don't need investors. You need proof. The world doesn't invest in ideas. It invests in demonstrated results. And results begin with a test. Not theory, not fantasy. A test, adjust, scale. Start small, but start now. You have $100? Good. Run ads. Test your messaging. You have no money? Fine. Test with time. Call 10 potential customers. DM 50 people. Ask, would you buy this? Get real feedback. Not from your friends, from the market. That's what matters. You launch a soft offer, a basic version, not beautiful, not perfect, just real. You don't wait until you're ready. You get ready by doing. Test, adjust, scale. Stop fantasizing about millions when you've never made your first $100 from this idea. First, prove the concept, then grow it. That's the path. $100 becomes $1,000. $1,000 becomes $10,000. You earn the right to go bigger. Prototypes, soft launches, A/B testing. This is the game. You want certainty? You create it. How? Build a prototype. It can be ugly. It just needs to work. Offer a pre-sale. See who buys. Launch to a small audience. Watch their behavior. Run A/B tests. Test headline A versus headline B. See which gets more clicks. Adjust. Then test again. This is discipline. You don't cling to your ego. You let the data speak. You let the market vote. Test, adjust, scale. Stop asking, what if it doesn't work? Ask instead, what can I test today? Because if you wait for certainty, you'll wait forever. Wealth doesn't come from waiting. It comes from testing. They build confidence through results, not motivation. You don't need more motivation. You need proof. Proof comes from action, from real numbers, from real people paying real money. Every soft launch gives you clarity. Every failed test gives you direction. Failure isn't a verdict. It's data. Painful data, but essential data. You don't run from it. You use it. Test. Adjust. Scale. $100 is not a loss. It's tuition. It buys you information. What headline works? What offer converts? What product people ignore? You're not losing money. You're buying clarity. Test small. Fail small. Then scale. With confidence. Big failures happen when people skip the small tests. They throw $50,000 into inventory before knowing if anyone wants it. They hire a full team before making their first sale. They build a full app when a landing page would have given the answer. That's pride disguised as vision. That's ego pretending to be ambition. Real ambition tests small, fails quietly, learns fast, then scales loud. Start with $100, then $1,000, then $10,000. That's the ladder. That's the process. Test, adjust, scale. You don't need their permission. You need data. You don't need approval from friends. You don't need applause from strangers. You don't need validation from your parents. You need numbers, conversions, click-through rates, purchases. Stop waiting for someone to say, go for it. You already have permission. The market is the only vote that matters now. Test, adjust, scale. Every test is a question. Every adjustment is an answer. Every scale is a reward. Test, does this offer work? Adjust, what needs improving? Scale, now how do we make it bigger? It's simple, but it's not easy. That's why so few do it. This is the discipline of growth. Growth is not magic. Growth is not viral luck. Growth is discipline. Small bets, fast feedback, ruthless improvement. You're not building perfection, you're building momentum. And momentum is built through motion. And motion starts with a test. So test, adjust, scale over and over until you win, until they can't ignore you. Because the truth is this, you don't rise when you finally feel ready. You rise when you've tested enough to know what works. Final thought, you have a choice. Keep dreaming about the $1 million idea, or start testing the $100 version today. That's the difference between fantasy and progress, between talkers and builders. You know what to do. Test, adjust, scale. You master this, and everything changes. Your risk shrinks, your confidence grows, your results compound, and with each test, you get closer to financial discipline and true freedom. You've now learned the art of the small bet. Good, because in the next chapter, we go deeper into multiplying those wins. Chapter 8. Diversify your risk, not your focus. The middle class was taught to diversify for safety. Buy a little of everything. A house, a savings account, maybe some stocks, maybe a side hustle. They spread themselves thin and call it diversification. But what they're really doing is diluting their attention. They're not building wealth. They're protecting their comfort. Wealthy people think differently. They don't diversify their focus. They diversify their risk. There's a difference. A massive one. One source of income is dangerous. One source of skill is deadly. Most people try to avoid danger. The wealthy work to control it. They don't say, how do I avoid risk? They say, how do I structure risk so it can't kill me? That's the key. You have a choice. You can keep scattering your time across 5 unfinished projects, or you can master one system, one industry, one skill, and then multiply it. You don't need their permission. You need discipline. Let's make this clear. Owning multiple random things is not wealth. Owning multiple systems is. Owning multiple houses doesn't make you financially free if every month you're one tenant away from default. Owning 3 businesses doesn't make you smart if you don't understand how a single one works in depth. One source of income is dangerous. One source of skill is deadly. The middle-class version of diversification is fear, disguised as strategy. The wealthy version is mastery structured into multiple engines of income. There are 3 types of money flow. Active income, passive assets, ownership equity. Active income is what you trade your time for. A job, freelancing, consulting. It's valuable, but it's fragile. If you stop, it stops. Passive assets are systems. Rental income, royalties, automated stores, dividends. They don't care if you sleep. They don't care if you're tired. They pay you because they're systems, not jobs. Ownership equity is the power tier. Owning part of a company, building a brand, holding stock in your own business. It's not about hours. It's about value. Equity is where wealth multiplies. Now ask yourself, where do you live? Are you trapped in active income? Are you pretending that saving 10% into a bank account is diversification? That's not diversification. That's delay. Real diversification means you build an income engine, then you build another, but you don't build them all at once. You build them in sequence. You master, then multiply. Test, adjust, scale. You learned that in the last chapter. It still applies here. The wealthy start with one thing. They go deep. They understand it inside out. They build a system that runs whether they show up or not. Then they take the profits, the discipline, the skill, and they deploy it somewhere else. Most people never get here because they're addicted to being busy. They don't want mastery. They want movement. They want to feel like they're doing something. They want 5 projects and 0 results. They want comfort, not power. It's not about doing more. It's about owning more of what matters. Stop trying to start 4 businesses at once. Stop buying crypto, stocks, real estate, and Amazon stores because someone said it was smart. That's not focus. That's panic. That's lack of identity. Ask yourself, what do I understand deeply? What do I control? Can I explain how it makes money? Can I fix it when it breaks? If the answer is no, you don't own it. It owns you. One source of income is dangerous. One source of skill is deadly. That's why you start with one skill. You master it. You monetize it. You turn that income into a system. Only then do you diversify, not to feel safe, but to build resilience. Wealthy people don't chase new things. They expand proven things. They have active income from a primary discipline. They use that income to buy or build passive assets. Then they use both to gain equity. That's the ladder. Active, passive, equity. Climb it. Look at McDonald's. It's not a burger company. It's a real estate system. Look at Amazon. It didn't start as a sell-everything company. It began with books, then reinvested, scaled, diversified into systems. That's the framework. One focus at a time. Risk diversified. Attention undivided. You have a choice. Keep chasing distractions or build a system that frees you. That's the discipline. So how do you apply this? Pick your core skill. One thing. Sales, design, coding, construction, logistics. It doesn't matter. Pick it. Own it. Master it so completely no one can ignore you. You don't need their permission. You need proof. Turn your skill into a system. Automate it. Document it. Scale it. Use the profits to buy or build a second system. Not a second job. A second engine. Protect yourself at every stage. LLCs, contracts, insurance. Systems aren't fragile. They're armored. Middle-class minds ask, how many things can I own? Wealth minds ask, how many systems can I control? Don't confuse ownership with leverage. A person with 3 rental homes and no cash flow is not diversified. A person with 1 thriving business, 1 rental system, and dividend-paying equity, that's diversification. 1 source of income is dangerous. 1 source of skill is deadly. Focus is your weapon. Diversification is your shield. Use both, but use them in the right order. You're not playing the game to survive. You're playing to dominate, but you can't dominate what you don't understand. So start now. Cut the noise. Pick your discipline. Build your system. Then duplicate it. That's how you diversify your risk, without dividing your focus. You've learned that power doesn't come from owning everything. It comes from controlling the right things. You mastered the art of scaling small ideas. Now let's talk about protecting your empire when no one is watching. Chapter 9. Turn every loss into data. Most people fear loss like it's the end. They treat failure as a verdict. The wealthy don't. They treat failure like feedback. They don't say, I failed. They say, I gathered data. That's the shift. That's the discipline. Losses are only permanent if you stop learning. You've been taught to avoid failure at all costs. Get it right the first time. Don't mess up. Keep it safe. But the wealthy know something different. Failure is tuition. You pay for it, yes, but you also get the lesson. The average person pays the cost and walks away empty-handed. The wealthy pay, take notes, and try again. Better, faster, smarter. You have a choice. You can keep running from loss, or you can use it. Losses are only permanent if you stop learning. Think about Walt Disney. Before Mickey Mouse, before Disneyland, he launched a company called Laugh-O-Gram Studios. It went bankrupt. He couldn't even afford food. Most people would quit. He didn't. He turned that loss into data. He learned he needed better contracts, better distribution, better ownership. That led to the Walt Disney Company. That's the key. He didn't avoid the loss. He extracted the lesson. Or James Dyson. He created 5,126 prototypes of a vacuum cleaner that didn't work before he found one that did. 5,026 losses. 5,026 data points. He didn't say, I failed. He said, now I know what doesn't work. That's how billionaires think. Losses are only permanent if you stop learning. Jack Ma applied for 30 jobs. He got rejected from all of them, including KFC. His first 2 companies failed. But he studied every rejection. Every no was a report card. Every failure was a map. That data became Alibaba. Now it's one of the largest companies in the world. You want to know why you're stuck? It's not because you failed. It's because you never studied the failure. You buried it. You blame someone else. You avoided the pain instead of extracting the lesson. Write this down. Losses are only permanent if you stop learning. The wealthy treat every loss like a lab experiment. They audit it. They ask 3 questions. What actually happened? What did I expect to happen? What will I do differently next time? That's it. No crying. No excuses, no drama, just data. The average person makes it personal. I'm not good enough. I'm unlucky. It wasn't meant for me. That's emotional thinking. That's self-destruction. You don't need their approval. You don't need perfection. You need discipline. You need reflection. You need data. Stop asking, why did this happen to me? Start asking, what is this teaching me? Stop saying, I lost everything. Start saying, I just bought information. Losses are only permanent if you stop learning. Here's what you need to do. Practical, direct, no fluff. Document your losses. Write down what went wrong in your business, your trades, your relationships, your finances. Search for patterns. Where do you keep making the same mistake? That's not fate. That's a lack of discipline. Detach your ego. This is not about your worth as a person. This is about improving your method. Run postmortems. Every project, every investment, every launch, win or lose, gets analyzed. You have a choice. You can delete your failures, or you can download their data. One leads to survival. The other leads to wealth. Losses are only permanent if you stop learning. Let's be clear. This is not about romanticizing failure. This is not fail fast nonsense. This is about learning fast. Failure isn't the goal. Accuracy is. Precision is. But the only path to accuracy is through iteration, through feedback, through data. It's not about talent. It's about discipline. It's not about avoiding the storm. It's about building a stronger ship. Losses are only permanent if you stop learning. So, what happens when you stop being afraid of losing? You start experimenting. You start testing. You send the email. You launch the product. You invest the first $100. You collect data. Then you improve. Then you scale. That's how the wealthy operate. You don't need their permission. You don't need perfect timing. You need the courage to start and the discipline to review. You're not losing. You're learning. If you keep learning, you'll keep progressing. If you stop learning, you lose for life. Losses are only permanent if you stop learning. Look at your life right now. Where did you fail? Where did you walk away too soon? Go back. Revisit it. Study it like a scientist. Treat your past not as a graveyard, but as a classroom. This is your turning point. You can keep living inside your excuses, or you can rise above them. You have a choice. Extract the data. Apply the lesson. Move forward, because this isn't just about money. It's about mindset. The discipline of reflection creates the discipline of wealth. Losses are only permanent if you stop learning. You've now learned to face your failures without fear. You've learned to pull value from pain. That's strength. That's growth. That's wealth. Chapter 10. Your tolerance for risk determines your ceiling. You will never rise above the level of discomfort you're willing to endure. That's the truth most people never face. They pray for a bigger life but do everything they can to avoid the heat. They want success, but only if it comes wrapped in safety. They want growth, but they won't risk embarrassment, judgment, or failure. And that's why they stay exactly where they are. Let me make it clear. Comfort is the real poverty. Controlled risk is the real wealth. You can work hard, you can stay disciplined. But if you always choose certainty over courage, you have already set your ceiling. You have already defined the limits of your life. Look at every successful person you admire. They weren't smarter than you. They weren't more gifted. They were willing to risk more. They stepped into the unknown when everybody else stayed home. They walked into fear and made it their ally. That's the key. Not talent, not luck. Tolerance for risk. You have a choice. You can build a life designed to keep you safe, or you can build a life designed to make you grow. But you cannot have both. You don't need their permission. You don't need applause. You need courage. You need the willingness to endure discomfort, uncertainty, and temporary loss in exchange for long-term freedom. Here's a question you must answer. How much are you willing to lose to become who you're meant to be? Time? Money? Reputation? Relationships? Sleep? Because if the answer is not much, then your life will never be much. You will never rise above the level of discomfort you're willing to endure. Comfort is the real poverty. Controlled risk is the real wealth. Most people think risk is jumping blindfolded. No, that's recklessness. I'm not telling you to be irresponsible. I'm telling you to take calculated, controlled, strategic risk. That means doing your research, building skills, creating backup plans, but still stepping into the arena when you're not 100% ready. Because if you wait until you're completely ready, you'll wait forever. You have a choice. Stay in the shallow end where it's safe, or swim where the water is deep and the current is strong. Yes, you might drown, but you might also discover how powerful you really are. That's the trade. That's the price. Comfort is the real poverty. Controlled risk is the real wealth. Think about this. You avoid risk because you don't want to lose what you have. But what if losing what you have is the price of gaining something greater? What if your attachment to safety is the very thing that keeps you small? You don't need more certainty. You need more capacity. Risk capacity. The ability to stand in uncertainty and still move forward. If you want a bigger life, you need a bigger risk capacity. You need to train yourself to handle stress without folding, to handle rejection without quitting, to handle failure without self-destruction. Start small if you have to. Speak up in the meeting. Launch the side business. Invest in yourself when no one else will. Stop waiting for guarantees. Stop waiting for approval. You don't need their permission. You need action. Here's how you increase your tolerance for risk. Expose yourself to controlled discomfort daily. Cold showers. Tough conversations. Learning something new. Small acts of voluntary discomfort build internal strength. Track your fears, then attack them. Write down what you're afraid of losing. Time, money, respect? Now attack those fears with action. Define your worst-case scenario. Can you survive it? Could you rebuild if it happened? Most people realize it's survivable. Fear starts to lose its power. Build skills that make you dangerous. The more capable you are, the more confident you become in taking risk. Skill builds courage. Surround yourself with people who play bigger. Comfort seekers will make you small. Risk takers will challenge you to rise. Comfort is the real poverty. Controlled risk is the real wealth. Repeat that until it's not just a phrase, but a filter for every decision you make. You have a choice. You can choose a job that pays just enough and demands just enough and keeps you just alive. Or you can choose the uncertainty of building something of your own. You can choose to stay in a relationship that's familiar but lifeless. Or you can choose to walk alone until you find someone who respects your growth. Every decision is a risk. Playing it safe is also a risk. But only one path leads to greatness. Don't misunderstand this. Risk doesn't guarantee success. But avoiding risk guarantees failure. You will fail. You will fall. You will get hurt. But that's not the end. That's the entry fee. Pain is not a sign you're off track. It's proof you're in the arena. Comfort is the real poverty. Controlled risk is the real wealth. You will never rise above the level of discomfort you're willing to endure. That is your ceiling. Your income ceiling. Your relationship ceiling. Your growth ceiling. So you have a choice. Raise your tolerance or accept your limits. If you want a bigger life, you need a bigger risk capacity. This chapter isn't asking you to be fearless. It's asking you to act while afraid, to choose growth over safety, to choose uncertainty over regret. That's the key. That's the only way to live a life that's fully yours. So decide. Will you live inside the cage of comfort? Or will you walk into the storm and claim the life you've been pretending to want? Comfort is the real poverty. Controlled risk is the real wealth. You mastered this truth. Now we go deeper. You embraced risk. Now let's talk about the one thing that determines how far your life can really go: time. This is the truth. The ultra-wealthy are not fearless. They are not reckless. They are not lucky. They are prepared. While most people hide from risk, they study it. While others, don't forget, follow this channel for update this new audio every day. Pray for safety. They build systems of protection. They gather information, they calculate the downside, they create safety nets, and then they move. Fast, decisively, relentlessly. They don't wait for permission. They don't wait for perfect timing. They accept the fear, but they do not accept staying small. So now it's your turn. You can keep chasing comfort, or you can start building capacity. Build your safety net. Study deeply. Take controlled risks. Lose, learn, adjust, and come back stronger. Wealth is not built by avoiding risk. It's built by managing it better than anyone else. The question now is simple. Will you keep waiting for certainty? Or will you step into uncertainty with strategy, discipline, and fire in your chest? Your move. Start today.